Welcome back everyone to Actual English. I'm Jennifer Clyde and let's start a brand new category with Lesson 101. Let's talk about cyberbullying. We did talk about bullying a while back, but let's focus on cyberbullying. There are many different ways of bullying. Bullies bully other kids for no special reason in many cases, and that can happen in the cyber world as well, through the net, on the internet. Now, so what happens? I think especially younger people tend to do this. Not so much older generations, although some adults do, but I think it happens more among younger people. People may say mean things to others or mean things about other people, harassing them. In the cyber world, for example, it's not just about physically abusing someone, but it's about abusing someone mentally. That's right. Really just playing with their minds and harassing people, giving them a very, very difficult time that sometimes cyberbullying can lead to suicides as well, which is very, very sad. Now, which should not happen. Anyhow, that is our topic for today. Let's find out what we have ready for you in today's Actual Talk. Let's listen.
Have you seen the number of cases of cyberbullying increasing on the news these days?
Yeah, it's alarmingly high. A lot of children, especially in high school, middle school, they are being targeted as victims of cyberbullying.
Sure. I think it's a lot easier for the bullies as well because you don't have to see your victim face to face.
Right.
You don't quite realize the consequences as well. I'm sure if they knew how badly they're affecting their victims' lives, then they would think twice about it.
Right, exactly. Like you said, the bully can't see the immediate reaction of the victim. And, you know, when you're hiding behind a screen like that, it's so much easier for the bully to do things that they probably wouldn't do face to face. It's so much easier to build this character because no one's going to tell you, no one's really going to know who did it. They can't really put a face to it.
Sure. And that's the thing. When you're like texting someone as opposed to calling them, you'll be more courageous as well. Not necessarily in a bad way, but It's the same thing with cyberbullying. When you're typing something, It's much easier to type things that are out of character.
Exactly. And the bully is kind of detached from the person that they are bullying, the victim.
And in many cases I've seen as well, it starts off almost accidentally. You know, people don't go out there with the purpose of bullying someone.
Right.
But like in bullying in the flesh, like you maybe start out just playfully teasing someone, then others join in, and when it's on like a social network site or something like that, it can get out of control and snowball really quickly.
Right, exactly. And the hard thing about things on the internet is that once it's on there, it's really hard to delete it or take it away. You've seen a lot of politicians fall because they impulsively wrote something online or sent pictures and things like that. But, you know, I think there are mechanisms now to attack cyberbullying and make sure it's not going to happen anymore.
Yeah, you've got to hold the people accountable and then make an example of them so people don't do it in the future, I think.
Right. And I think parents should also pick up on maybe warning signs or kind of monitor the younger children and their use of the internet.
Yeah.
Well, today Peter and Rachel have helped us out with Actual Talk. We're talking about cyberbullying, not just bullying, physically abusing someone or physically, violently harassing someone, but we're talking about what happens in the cyber world, perhaps through social networking sites. It can happen, right? Which is very sad. So let's find out what these two talked about today. You may have noticed that they do talk a lot because this is a kind of sensitive topic. So let's go through it line by line. First of all, Peter says, have you seen the number of cases of cyberbullying increasing on the news these days? So he's talking about the number of cases of cyberbullying increasing. It's going up. It's rising, for example. So he's saying, more nowadays. Have you seen these days on the news, or have you heard about it on the news these days, that there is more and more an increase in cyberbullying? There's more cyberbullying these days. The number is rising. The number of cases of cyberbullying is increasing. Well, Rachel says, yes, it's alarmingly high. Now, alarm is what we usually set to wake up at a certain time. You may have an alarm clock that goes off at a certain time. When you set it for 7, it'll go off at 7 o'clock to wake you up. But here, now, imagine when an alarm rings and you're sleeping. It kind of surprises you, right? It alerts you. So when you say that something is alarming, you are saying that it is very frightening sometimes. It can be very surprising, very intense sometimes. So it's alarmingly high. A lot of children, especially in high school and middle school, they are being targeted. They are becoming the target as victims of cyberbullying. So she's saying that a lot of high school and middle school students are becoming the target for cyberbullying, which is true. Peter says, sure, I think it's a lot easier for the bullies because you don't have to see your victim face to face. It's strange, isn't it? In many circumstances, in many situations, it's easier to do something when your face is hidden, for example. So if you are behind a wall, or if you have a mask on, even if you just have sunglasses on, sometimes it's easier to do bad things compared to when you don't have anything to hide your face. So he's saying it is a lot easier for the bullies to bully others, or it's a lot easier for those to bully others on the net because you cannot see your victim face to face. Now, face to face is an idiomatic expression. Face to face simply means in person. Face to face, seeing each other. So we're talking about talking to someone, okay, or meeting someone in person, okay? I'm sure if they knew how badly they were affecting their victims, if they knew how badly they were hurting their victims' lives, they would think twice about it. Think twice about something means to think about something again, okay? Often people say, don't make quick decisions. Think twice about it, which means you should really, really consider it. Think about it once, but just in case, think about it one more time, meaning think twice about it. Now, Rachel says, like you said, the bully, we're talking about the person that is bullying others, harassing others, cannot see. They can't see the immediate reaction of the victim. That's right. They can't see the reaction of the victim, and it's so much easier for the bully. Once again, she is saying that it's easier for the bully because you're not doing this in person. In other words, face to face. It's so much easier because no one's really going to know who did it. That's true. You're hidden. You're doing it in secret. They can't really put a face to it. Okay. Now, this is a very similar expression to this one. This is an idiomatic expression as well. Can't put a face to the name or someone. We'll go over this pattern later on and practice it. But what she's saying is they can't put a face to it, or they can't put a face to the name, for example. If you can't put a face to a name, it means that you have a difficult time remembering the name of the person. You know the person, but you don't quite remember the name of the person. So that's what you can say. She says they can't really put a face to it. In other words, they're bullying someone. They have found their target, but because they're not doing it in person, they're not doing it face to face, they don't know who they are bullying. Sure, and that's the thing. That's the problem, okay? When you're texting someone as opposed to calling them, we're talking about texting and not calling, you'll be more courageous as well. Courageous is another word for brave, right? And it's the same thing with cyberbullying. It is the same thing with something. So he's making a comparison. So imagine, is it easier to text someone and say mean things, or is it easier to say mean things to a person face-to-face, in person? Of course, it's easier to text because you are not saying it directly to the person. And he's saying it is the same with cyberbullying. And in many cases, in many instances, it starts off, it begins almost accidentally. So it can start as an accident without an intention to hurt someone. It could just happen. People don't go out there with the purpose of bullying someone, okay? They don't have a purpose. They don't have the intention to bully someone. But you maybe start out just playfully teasing someone, okay? Tease means to make fun of someone, to harass someone, to mock someone, for instance, okay, to ridicule someone. But playfully, in other words, just jokingly. You can play light jokes on people. So he's saying you could start out just jokingly, playfully teasing someone. Then others join in. Others take part. And when it's on a social network site or something like that, it can get out of control. It can be very hard to control and snowball really quickly. Now, this is a vocab word for today that I have picked out, to snowball. We all know what a snowball is, right? If it snows, in order to make a snowman, you have to make a small snowball and roll it. And the more you roll it, what happens? The snowball becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, so you have a big snowman. So a snowball is just a ball of snow. But if snowball is used like this as a verb, it means, such as a problem or something, getting bigger and bigger, getting more serious, even more serious, just like a snowball gets bigger as you roll it around, okay? So he's saying, it can get out of control and also snowball, meaning the problem can get even more serious very quickly. Exactly, Rachel agrees. And the hard thing about things on the internet, we're talking about things on the internet, is that once it's on there, once it's there, this can be omitted as well, it's really hard to delete it or take it away. It's hard. It's very difficult to get rid of it or just take the post down. But I think there are mechanisms, there are methods, for example, to make sure it's not going to happen anymore. So I'm sure there are many systems, there are many methods, many things you can do to perhaps stop this or help to stop this, and that's exactly what she is talking about. Now, Peter says, you have to hold the people accountable. Now, hold somebody accountable means to hold responsible, okay? Put the blame on someone. So you've got to hold the people accountable so that people don't do it in the future. And of course, Rachel says, and I think that parents should also pick up on warning signs. Okay, we're talking about warning signs. They should look for, they should catch, be alert for, okay? They should be very watchful. They should pick up on, they should sense those warning signs or even monitor, meaning keep a close eye on, watch younger children and their use of the internet, okay? And I think it is very true. You should really pick up on a few things, be alert, have an eye out for something, be very watchful. Notice things, catch on something as well. And I think it is, part of what parents should do for the safety of their children. So today we are talking about cyberbullying. Let's listen to actual talk one more time.
Have you seen the number of cases of cyberbullying increasing on the news these days?
Yeah, it's alarmingly high. A lot of children, especially in high school, middle school, they are being targeted as victims of cyberbullying.
Sure. I think it's a lot easier for the bullies as well because you don't have to see your victim face to face.
Right.
You don't quite realize the consequences as well. I'm sure if they knew how badly they're affecting their victims' lives, then they would think twice about it.
Right, exactly. Like you said, the bully can't see the immediate reaction of the victim. And, when you're hiding behind a screen like that, it's so much easier for the bully to do things that they probably wouldn't do face to face. It's so much easier to build this character because no one's going to tell you, no one's really going to know who did it. They can't really put a face to it.
Sure. And that's the thing. When you're texting someone as opposed to calling them, you'll be more courageous as well. Not necessarily in a bad way, but it's the same thing with cyberbullying. When you're typing something, it's much easier to type things that are out of character.
Exactly. And the bully is kind of detached from the person that they are bullying, the victim.
And in many cases I've seen as well, it starts off almost accidentally. People don't go out there with the purpose of bullying someone.
Right.
But like in bullying in the flesh, you maybe start out just playfully teasing someone, then others join in, and when it's on a social network site or something like that, it can get out of control and snowball really quickly.
Right, exactly. And the hard thing about things on the internet is that once it's on there, it's really hard to delete it or take it away. You've seen a lot of politicians fall because they impulsively wrote something online or sent pictures and things like that. But I think there are mechanisms now to attack cyberbullying and make sure it's not going to happen anymore.
Yeah, you've got to hold the people accountable and then make an example of them so people don't do it in the future, I think.
Right. And I think parents should also pick up on maybe warning signs or kind of monitor the younger children and their use of the internet.
Yeah.
Welcome back, everyone. Did you enjoy the actual talk conversation one more time? Okay then, let's now move on to our next segment, which is actual expressions. In this segment, we go over some vocab words and phrases that we found in today's actual talk conversation, and then afterwards, we'll go on to some patterns. We'll practice them together with some sample sentences. Now, we've got words here as you see. We have alarming, that's right, alarming, alarming. Rachel said something about a certain number being alarmingly high, right? So alarm, alarming. Think of an alarm clock. It can be disturbing sometimes, okay? It can be startling sometimes. So some synonyms are disturbing and even frightening because it is so high. Alarming. What about snowball? Of course, in this case, we are talking about snowball in the verb form, not the noun form. If it's used as a verb, it means to intensify. Multiply, as I said, become bigger and bigger, greater and greater, and more serious. So it means to escalate, even to increase. Things can snowball. A problem can snowball, meaning that it can get bigger and bigger. What about mechanism? Stress goes right there on this first syllable, and some synonyms are means, method, or even a system. Think of it as a method or even means, okay? Now, to pick up on something means to be what? To be alert for something, to catch up onto something. Now, to take notice of. Parents need to take notice of these warning signs, for example. They need to keep an eye out for their children. Watch what their children are up to and how they are doing. So pick up on also means to learn, okay? Be alert and to have knowledge of something. Now let's move on to some patterns. We've got 3 for you today. The number of something is increasing. That is what we had today in today's actual talk as Peter was talking about the increasing number of cyberbullying, right? So here is a sample sentence. The number of smaller families is increasing. Okay. Now you may wonder though, well, that's weird. We have families in the plural form, but why is it is and not are? So why? Why is it is and not are? Because the is supporting the number of. It's not numbers of, it is the number of something is increasing. Okay, so keep that in mind. It can be tricky, so don't make that mistake. The number of smaller families is increasing. What about this one? It's good news that the number of smokers is decreasing. That's true. The number of smokers is going down. It's decreasing. Okay? So once again, it's good news that the number of something is decreasing, is increasing. What about this one? Face to face, as I mentioned. In person. Watching each other directly. Okay? So face to face. I prefer to sort problems, to solve problems out face to face. Which means, say for example, you have an argument with someone or you have a problem. You need to talk to somebody about a certain problem. Now, would you prefer to do it over the phone? Would you rather email that person? Or would you rather meet in person and talk about it face to face? Well, if you would rather meet and talk about it with each other, you can use face to face. So here we go. I prefer to sort problems out face to face. I prefer to sort problems out in person. I've never met my pen pal face to face. Okay, so face to face means to meet or to talk to somebody in person. I've never met my pen pal face to face. We have never had the chance to meet in person. And what about this one? Cannot put a name to a face or her, him. They're all possible. This is something you can say when you are in a situation where you cannot remember the name of a person, okay? So, I remember her face, okay? I remember her face, but I can't put a name to her. We're talking about a certain female, okay? So you're saying, I remember her face. I know what she looks like, but I can't remember her name. I remember her face, but I can't put a name to her. Good job. And here we go. We talked for hours last night, just last night, but I can't put a name to him. Okay. So you and this guy talked for hours and hours. You had a good conversation. You had a good time, but all of a sudden, you can't remember his name. In that case, you can say, we talked for hours last night, but I can't put a name to his face, or I can't put a name to him. Okay? Hope you practice these patterns more on your own so that they will become yours very soon.